Here is the afternoon of Sunday, May 25th at the Armory in Medford, Oregon. Senator Ron Wyden was coming to Medford to do a town hall with the people of Jackson County. My team is always looking for politically adjacent coverage, and so we were in attendance. These are the highlights. Also, stick around to the end for a brief interview with the senator where we mostly talk about energy issues.
Whoa. Thank you. That's lovely. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm former City of Medford Mayor Lindsay Berryman, and I'd like to welcome and thank you, all of you, for coming today and joining us here at the Medford Armory for Senator Wyden's annual Jackson County Town Hall. It's open to all. Community gatherings like this town hall only work if everybody respects everybody else's right to speak. After I call on them when their ticket is drawn. Senator Wyden's Jackson County Town Hall last year was disrupted briefly by protesters aiming to shut down those rights.
This is the First Amendment protest. Senator Ron Wyden, we find you guilty of aiding in the genocide of Palestinians. Ron Wyden has accepted $1.3 million from the American Israel Public Affairs Committee.
From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.
How dare you? Hey, do not assault me.
We're going to come back to Jackson County, and I hope that everybody will have a chance to exercise their First Amendment rights.
But at this point, the senator has decided to call off the town hall. Town hall is over. Thank you.
Genocide!
What you wanted?
Yes,
it is what we wanted. Thank you.
That town hall ultimately continued after that disruption. But if it's a town hall ends up being canceled for people's safety, please know the comment cards and QR codes are both available for anybody who wants to share their opinions and ask questions of Senator Wyden. I have faith that Jackson County can hold a successful town hall today. And I know Senator Wyden is open to taking any question. Please respect your neighbor's rights to ask these questions within the agreed upon format. So while I recognize many people hold strong views, please respect the process throughout this town hall and do not confront anybody you disagree with or who may not be following the rules designed to keep things orderly and safe for everybody. Now I'd like to welcome to the stage Mayor Zarosinski from Medford and U.S. Senator Ron Wyden.
The United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to introduce our town hall moderator, our current Medford Mayor, Mike Zarosinski.
Thank you, Mayor Berryman. And just so we don't miss anybody, do we have any other elected officials in the room today, or fire chiefs, police chiefs? We have one. Great. Thanks for making it.
So let me just add a little introduction here for the senator that does not need his introduction here.
But this is the 1,120th town hall that we're hosting here tonight by the senator. When Senator Wyden is in Washington, D.C., representing all of us in the United States Senate, he is the ranking member of the Senate Finance Committee and a member of the Senate Committee on Budget, Intelligence, and Energy and Natural Resources. In Oregon, we know Senator Wyden is the senator that listens. So let's give a big Jackson County welcome to Senator Wyden.
Thank you. Let's hear it for Mayor Mike and Lindsay. And also for all the wonderful people at the Armory. They do a great job for us. Let's make sure we recognize them. How many of you have never been to one of our town hall meetings, right? Oh, we've got lots of newcomers. Well, usually I start with a few comments, like maybe a half an hour or so. And somebody over there thinks I'm serious. Her face got all pale. No, we don't do anything like that. This is part of the pledge that had never been made in the history of Oregon government. I said I would throw open the doors of government, and we'd have an open to everybody town hall in every county every year. So let's deal with some very serious issues, but let's also respect each other, and let's have a good time, okay? So you can't poke your neighbor if you disagree with them, and there's all our wonderful police. In fact, let's thank all our law enforcement folks in the back, too. And I'm just going to make one point real quickly, and then let's go to questions, and that is that I'm in public service for one reason, and it's particularly important today because I believe healthcare is under attack. In Washington, D.C., the House of Representatives passed a budget that's turning back the clock. And it's not just there. How many of you have heard about the practice of insurance company upcoding? You know what upcoding is? The insurance companies say that you're sicker than you actually are so they can get the government to give them a higher check, more money. So we got a lot to do, and particularly in this county, let me just give you the latest numbers. 1 out of 3 residents are on the Oregon Health Plan, that's Medicaid. In Jackson County, it's more than 40%. So this is a rich and strong and good country, and we can do better to make sure we don't have so many people falling between the cracks. And let's go through that today. On with the show, Mike. How many of you know that in much of the country, there aren't any town hall meetings going on today? You guys know why? Because those folks can't defend the indefensible. They can't. And so their leadership said, we don't want you to get out there. For example, Mehmet Oz, have you heard of him? You know, he's the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Well, I understand what you said, and I'll just smile. But he said during his confirmation hearings that he thought that there were approaches to deal with nursing home patients that didn't involve staffing. And I said, Dr. Oz, they call them nursing homes because there are nurses in them. And he said, well, we're going to do it by AI. So I said, Dr. Oz, you know, I was director of the Great Panthers for about 7 years. You know, people know about my shady past. I wanted to play in the NBA. I went to school on a scholarship. That was a ridiculous idea. But I worked for the Great Panthers for 7 years. And I know about nursing homes. I was a public member of the nursing home board. And I said, Dr. Oz, you're going to use AI, and tell me how that might work for an elderly woman who's 85 years old and needs to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. How are you going to make this AI work for her? And they didn't have any answers to this.
Trump has probably several baskets full of presidential decrees that he considers laws. Is that legal? Isn't there some way to stop him from doing that?
Great question. For example, how many of you have been following the discussion about the tariffs? Well, remember, tariffs are taxes on you. You know, he keeps saying they're going to be paid for by foreigners. They're taxes that you're going to pay. Donald Trump is saying that he can make his trade policies go into effect without congressional approval. And I'm saying, hold on. Article 1 of the Constitution gives Congress that power, and I'm using my position on the Finance Committee. We're going to insist on trade agreements coming to the Congress of the United States for approval, not him just putting them in by himself. Guess how many changes in tariff policy there have been since he started his ill-advised approach? Somebody take a guess. How many? 100? 50. So that means 50 times the policy changed, and I can tell you because all over Oregon, from Pendleton to Portland, all the farmers and the tech companies and the like say, Ron, we want only one thing. Tell him to stop changing his mind all the time. We need some certainty and some predictability. We'll get it if you get your way and we have Congress insist. Nothing goes into effect without congressional approval.
I'm 63 years old. I've been paying into Social Security for my entire life. I'm about to move into retirement age, and I feel terrified, to be quite honest. I've saved, I've got a bit of a nest egg. With all the tariffs going on, it's up and down. What is it that can be done to bring this administration into alignment with the American people so that we're not feeling terrified by everything that's going on, and that I can know that I can step into retirement and feel confident that my country is going to support me with all the monies that I put in.
3 cheers for this man who speaks for millions. Sir, you make the point so thoughtfully. And of course, Social Security is the connective tissue that our country is all about, young people and seniors. And on the Finance Committee, we have jurisdiction over Social Security. And let me tell you what I think we're dealing with. I think the Trump people are trying to hollow out the Social Security program. They're trying to cut back on the phone service. They're trying to cut back on the staff. They're trying to cut back on the offices. Because if they can hollow it out, they're on their way to privatizing Social Security. So we're drawing a line in the sand. No privatization. No, no, again, no. And what all of you can do is report to us these instances of offices and policies that have gone haywire. For example, when I was in Eastern Oregon to meet with the farmers a couple of weeks ago, I stopped at the Pendleton office, the Social Security office, and there was almost all disabled folks. And we had been told on the Finance Committee, where I'm the senior Democrat, we had been told that they had let up on the disabled folks. But the whole office was filled with disabled people. So your story is indicated in all kinds of things, particularly the fact that people used to be saying to me, Ron, I think I'll wait a little bit longer because your check goes up. And at 70, you basically don't face the ground rules you face when you're in your early 60s. But they're also frightened, as you said, that they're all signing up early, which means that they could lose out on some earned benefits that they might not otherwise, miss. They could stay and wait. So we've got to get Doge out and the Social Security protections in.
I think it's not an exaggeration to say that many of us feel like we are witnessing the collapse of our democratic system for real. And as far as I can see, a big reason for that is the unrestrained influence of big money on our political system. What we see now is that big money can purchase its legislators with impunity right up to the highest office in the land. If you have enough money and enough influence, you can buy your legislator. How can we possibly respond as individuals without corporate influence to a democracy that is for sale to the highest bidder?
First thing you can do is do more of what we're doing today and call your friends up. How many of you belong to AARP. One of the things you could do after Memorial Day is you could call your friends in other states and say, does your senator have an open town meeting? And they'll probably say, didn't know you could do that. And they said, yeah, we just went to one on Sunday. So the point really is we need to start a grassroots juggernaut. And let me give you a couple of other ideas. First of all, we have to get rid of Citizens United, the Supreme Court case. So reaching out to other states, focusing on Citizens United, and then before I left Washington last week, I introduced federal legislation to take Oregon vote by mail national and to give people in every corner of America. Now, I'm watching the expression on your face, and understandably you're wondering, hey, Ron's okay, he's our guy and all that, but none of this is ever gonna happen. Well, political change, ma'am, hardly ever is top down. It's almost always grassroots up. And let me give you a reason why people will really be fired up about my vote by mail thing. Do you know that the Republicans passed a bill a couple weeks ago called the SAVE Act, which was gut vote by mail? Do you know what they do to married women? 160 million married women are going to have to go through red tape because they've changed their name. This is crazy. This is anti-democratic. We can win on these issues, but we've got to take it out to the grassroots. I'm not going to say it's going to be easy, but we can take it to the grassroots and we can win. If you're inconveniencing 160 million women who ought to have the right to vote, you're going to find a lot of elected officials, when they come up to them, say, I'm not going to support that anymore. Thanks for your question. Let's give her a round of applause. Really good one. He would never admit it, but Donald Trump really reacts to bad press. For example, he's changed his mind twice, including earlier today on his tariffs, because he's getting so much flack. And I know people who know him. This is his big issue, folks. This tariff thing, I think if he had his way, he would get rid of the income tax completely and would just tariff you morning, noon, and night, and he could see himself sitting across the table being a big bully. And he just basically changed his mind again today. Why? Because people got so angry about Walgreens and Walmart raising their prices, and they advertised it. So I'm not going to tell you that this is going to solve everything, but I just described my vote by mail legislation, which I think women are going to really be angry about, 160 million. His tariff policy is causing more inflation. He promised lower costs, less inflation. He's given you more costs and higher inflation.
And I am a farmer in the area, and I'm also an ag service provider. And what I'm seeing as both a recipient, or supposedly, of Conservation Stewardship Program funds, and also among all the people I've helped to get starter funds for their farms for extending growing season, et cetera. With all these programs being gutted, what I'm seeing is that our food system is being handed over to corporate and industrial agriculture, who really does not prioritize nutrient density, soil health, water quality, animal and plant life, etc. How do we save our food system under this administration?
Great point. And I have been taking Bobby Kennedy on some of his health issues like autism and the like, because I think he's been unfair to those families. But I agree with him on taking on corporate food. So this is the time when you have somebody who is in that office who actually has made promises. He has made promises to take on the corporate food system and sugar and drinks and sodas and all the rest. I'd be glad to work with you if you have friends and others who want to go after corporate food. America and I, you got me at hello, because I think the timing right now is ideal. You know, you often disagree with somebody on issue. I disagree with Bobby Kennedy on the autism question. I don't think those families have been treated fairly, but I do agree with taking on corporate food and the kinds of policies you're talking about. So put America and I down, we'll work with you on it. Good for you. Everybody's asking good questions, and very quickly we're going to get a lot of them in.
All right, we have 198.
Question. I read in the Seattle Times that Patty Murray was the chair last year of the Senate Appropriations Committee, and they approved the Army Corps of Engineers projects. It was a bipartisan group with a vote of 28-0, so it was unanimous agreement on how they should spend the $2.5 billion. And Trump this last week said, no, we're not going to do that plan. We're going to do my plan, and changed everything. And I'm just wondering, how does this happen when we're supposed to have equal branches?
Well, Trump is trying to throw big chunks of the Constitution in the garbage can. So the question is, are we going to let him? Because what you describe trumps all over Article 1 of the Constitution, which gives Congress the power of the purse to write that Army Corps of legislation, issue. And they're sometimes not going far at all. For example, I wrote the clean energy tax credits that you probably have seen are now under attack by the Trump people. They're saying, oh, we're not going to get rid of it all, but they're going to drown it in red tape and bureaucracy. So they are doing everything they possibly can to trample on constitutional principles. And I think we'll beat them if we spell it out. So that, for example, on those projects that you're talking about, if you can have friends and neighbors talk about something that's particularly helpful here, like, for example, cleaning up drinking water, some of the things that go on in these projects, that gives us a chance to push back. But there is no question in my mind that Donald Trump is an authoritarian. He's somebody who's trying to increase his power at the expense of you. And frankly, we know authoritarians in the world. There are people like Putin who will just step in and take rights and take more rights and take more rights. And we know what that means. You've got to stop him now. It's one of the reasons why a couple of months ago I voted against the continuing resolution. I voted against it because I don't think you look the other way when a bully tries to take your rights.
Senator Wyden, I kind of wanted to go back to one of the questions that I think that lady spoke over there about getting money out of politics. I'm glad, and I'm also glad that we're all here to memorialize our veterans fighting for our country. I also think on this Memorial Day we should remember all of them who've died due to our country's need to enact war on our nations. If you were really here for our veterans, you would immediately stop funding money and sending more money onto the ongoing genocide in Gaza right now, completely funded by the United States. Many of us are here today because of the tax and lack of access to health care, rent, and Social Security.
The DNC doesn't even have universal health care on their platform. Some veterans have even a harder time accessing these things. All of that money you are agreeing to send over, that is being sent to genocide. You are one of the largest recipients of AIPAC who lobbies our government to keep sending money. You keep voting to send them arms. You want a two-state resolution, but there's nothing on your record that shows that that's correct. You oppose Trump, but you support Netanyahu's plan, who on live TV has said that this does not end once every child in Gaza is dead. We are in a $1.5 billion deficit here in Oregon, and it is continuing to be sent over. From the looks of it, the priority isn't here in the United States. When can you commit to stop taking money from AIPAC and provide us an answer on what is you to stop sending them arms? You keep voting to send them money. You keep taking money. What's your red line? Is there a red line?
Let me address the important question that you're talking about. But first, with respect to taking on big money. Sir, I just described right away the biggest single ripoff by the health insurance people they're using now. It's called upcoding, where they basically pretend that you're sicker than you are. In the tax bill coming up, I'm leading the fight for the Democrats to stop the brakes for the wealthy. And then I've taken on big oil for the clean energy tax credits. All of that is on my website. So that's with respect to the domestic budget, trying to stop these ripoffs, protecting people's tax dollars, and having money for domestic needs. Let me talk about the Middle East issue, which you raise, and it's an important question that people have strong differences of opinion on. I will tell you and everyone here that I support Israelis and Palestinians who are against killing innocents, but I am opposed to Hamas that hides in schools and hospitals so that innocents get hurt. Sir.
Hey, hold up. So here's the deal. We got it. We have a reasonable question.
Folks, I let the gentleman give his full statement, and I'm trying to give mine. The gentleman gave his full statement, I gave mine. Let's go to the next one.
You're lying. You didn't answer any of the questions. Stop taking money.
Okay, so whatever point is intended to be made is made. We're gonna move on to the next question. Okay.
How many of you would like to talk about other subjects too? Let's go.
Okay. So look, here's the deal. It's 3:51. It's 3:51, or we can take a break.
No, I gave my answer clearly. I support policies that protect innocents, and I oppose policies that don't. That's been my position, and that was when I voted against the Iraq War. It's when I have taken positions on foreign policy.
Okay, we're going to 3:51.
Stop taking money. None of any of our problems will be taken. You see how there's not one the amount of young people here? Because we can see everything is controlled by money, and you refuse to answer the question.
You know what? You had an excellent question.
We've got 351 right here.
We got to go on to 351.
Answer the question.
Okay, this is Wes Brain. I've got number 351. Thanks for being here yet again. I'm a California transplant since 1956. Thanks for being here. Here's my question. You brought up healthcare, opened up this forum talking about one of the most critical issues in our lives right now, the corporate taking over of our damn healthcare. How will you, Senator Wyden, help kick healthcare insurance companies to the curb? What will you do to strengthen the relationship of physicians and patients the way it used to be? Please answer that question. We want action, please.
Wes, first of all, let's give Wes a round of applause. Those are good questions. Wes, in terms of taking on big insurance, which you've been interested in, take a look at what Elizabeth Warren and I announced last week. We're leading the effort against upcoding. Upcoding is the biggest single ripoff that we have seen in decades. And we also said, as part of our letter, that part of that money should be used to promote a better physician-patient relationship, not just putting them in for 5 minutes and then pushing them out the door. Well, that's what Elizabeth Warren and I proposed, Wes, in our letter against upcoding. You want to get the insurance companies out?
Upcoding's a part of it, sir.
It's the biggest part. Give Wes a round of applause. He's right.
Okay, 348. Yeah, nice try. Okay.
Is that his number?
No.
Oh.
310.
Answer the question.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Gentleman in the third row.
This, right there.
Same question.
All right, we've got 310.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to see you, Doctor.
Thank you.
Senator, my question is that I was actually shocked and appalled that Kamala Harris did not win. This was really a shock to me. Okay, all right, thank you. And what I wanted to ask you is that it seems like with the election of Trump twice, that our country is kind of an existential question. Our country has become so much more anthropocentric, self-centered, only concerned about themselves, rather than we the people. And I think the Democrats value the people. That's why we're so shocked to see what is happening in our world today, and how much disrespect our government has for even immigrants who are not allowed to, even many of whom can't go through due process. So there's a compassionate heart, I believe, in the Democratic Party, and there's a more of a mechanical heart in the MAGA Party, that they have a heart that beats, but it's like a mechanism, not really a compassionate heart. I was wondering how we can address this for the future.
What we ought to do is make clear that we are a better and stronger country because of immigration, and all of us, probably other than the Native Americans, we're immigrants. Those are our roots. And you can take a look at a young woman that was with me in Fred Meyer a couple of days ago in the metro area, and she told me, Ron, I'm so proud. I just became a citizen. I studied, I did all the work, and I said, we're all proud of you. Her picture leads my website today because we're proud of those who are working to become citizens in America. So, apropos of trying to look at a new approach in terms of humanity, I tell everybody now, I will work with anybody who wants to make our country and our world a better place, and I'll respectfully oppose people who don't, because we need to build a new grassroots kind of movement. And frankly, I think people who are signing up for new political parties and the like, more power to them, because they're going to hold the system of government accountable, and that's what we need in America.
Okay, 332. Okay. So here's the deal. 332 needs to raise their hand and ask a question. All right, now we've got 305.
One more time.
305.
305. 305. Next.
Is 355. $740.
740.
Yes.
There we go.
Folks, the person there said she wants to ask her question. Let's give everybody a chance. Keep going, Mayor. Let's go.
All right, we have 740 here. Hi, Senator Wyden. My name is Isabella Lee Tibbetts. I'm the vice chair of the Jackson County Democrats, and I'm a mom. My question for you is, with how the political landscape currently is nationally and locally, what can my generation and the younger generations do to get involved and to stand up against fascism?
This was a great question. She wants to know, what can her generation do? Are you still in school or are you out of school? Are you working? What are you doing? Stay-at-home mom. If you want to get together a group of stay-at-home moms like yourself, I'll come and meet with you and we'll talk about what we can do, okay? I'll come and meet with you. The stay-at-home moms particularly can be a huge influence on government because we, of course, my kid always says, so Dad, we have this new thing called the internet. We can use it. I mean, you can run a grassroots kind of effort or a small business or an organization from home, you know, with your smartphone. And I'd like to sit down with you all and talk about some of your projects. And gig workers started to get some attention, but stay-at-home moms have really not gotten an opportunity for a political profile. I want to change that. Good for you. Give her a round of applause.
People have talked about the big money in government. We've talked about that a couple times, and I think that this is a really, really big problem. It seems like our country is being bought and paid for. Is there something that we can do to turn around Citizens United so that the rich don't have all the control, that regular people can have control beyond just our vote, but so that people that put money out, there's a amount that you can't go over. And also that everyone who gives money, it's obvious, so there isn't dark money, hidden money, so you don't know where it's coming from.
Your question is the reason why I'm here today, ma'am. I have colleagues in the Senate who ask me what I'm doing over the weekend, and I say I'm having open to all town meetings. And they say, why would you do that? And then one person said recently, don't people yell at you? And now I'm going to say, yeah, they do. But the point is, this is what the Founding Fathers wanted. I'm looking out at the faces of democracy, and we're going to get it back if people in elected office are going to commit to it. We have now public documents that can show you where senators have voted on campaign finance in the past and the statements they've given. And if we start going to elected officials at every level of government, federal, state, local, the water district, and say, we've got to get the big money out. We expect you to do 2 town hall meetings in the next month. We're going to force them to change. But they're not going to change if the only voice out there is big money. So the reason I'm here, ma'am, is because I want people in Oregon to see that big money doesn't call the shots. I'm going to have people go home tonight, some of whom are going to disagree with me a lot. But that's what the Founding Fathers wanted us to look for, is something that looks like this, where people who want to be heard can do it directly to government. And I've done it 1,120 times. And as long as I'm representing you in the Senate, this is the way we'll do it, no matter what.
All right, next is 507.
And one other offer to my friend in purple. If you'd like to start a group here locally to try to build support, additional support for changing Citizens United, I'm in. Put me down. I'll be there when you kick it off. Okay, we got a vote here and a vote here. Anybody who wants to be part of Southern Oregon Fight Citizens United, raise your hand. Okay. Everybody meet with that nice person on the way out, but put me down. Put me down. I'm in. I'm in.
All right, 507.
Sorry. I watch almost all of the hearings in Senate, and I spend 2 to 3 hours a day.
Take your time.
Researching information, because I feel like there's so much disinformation out there right now that all of our younger generation, all of our older generation, it's really hard to decipher what is reality and what is not. But it's really easy if you know where to look. And I do think that there is a very large disconnect, but I'm here today not as a citizen, I'm here today as a mom. Our schools don't even know how to plan budgets because we don't even know what the federal government is going to do, and Donald Trump changes his mind every single day. There's no real definitive answers that we have, and more so, he's harming our communities are less safe, our country's less safe, our world's less safe with him as president, honestly. But most importantly, things like Rogue Valley Farm to School, right? Which not only helped our local farmers, but it helped our kids get healthy food, is being cut. How do we stop this from happening? Because this is like crucial funding and really important things for our students and our children.
Where's our friend? Where's our friend who just talked about taking on corporate food? Okay, we're gonna get you involved because three cheers for you, and there is something big coming up for schools, and that is, some of you may have heard of the Secure Rural Schools program, which I wrote, which is the billions of dollars Oregon has gotten that goes for schools and roads and law enforcement and community safety. I got up on the floor of the Senate on Thursday and asked to pass the legislation because it was bipartisan and Republicans objected. But I've gotten so much feedback over the last couple days, I think we'll get it passed. But that's money that'll go directly into schools and young people that you're talking about. I'm gonna get that passed and soon. And let's talk, she made so many good points, but I think this point about disinformation is so important because particularly for young people, my wife and I are older parents, they're always saying, I can't figure out who's telling the truth. And there's a lot of validity to that. So I tell my kids what I do in the morning. If I'm in Washington, I get up and I'll watch 15 or 20 minutes of MSNBC and 15 or 20 minutes of Fox. And if I watch them both, at least I get a sense of what people are saying. But I think the best thing, particularly for young people, is get a cross-section of opinions. And it sounds like you're doing that. You're watching a lot of Senate C-SPAN stuff. And we're actually trying to win a big fight on C-SPAN because C-SPAN's been funded by cable. I want to get C-SPAN funded by Google and have it live streamed so that everybody in America gets easy access to C-SPAN.
So I've been hearing you talk a lot about grassroots movements, people joining with other people to make changes, but I feel really disheartened at the lack of activity from the Democratic Party. And I feel as much animosity toward them as I do toward the GOP right now. And I wonder why you can't be more effective at helping us fight back.
Well, I'll let you make your own decisions about my policies, but I'm winning fights now against the Trump people on Social Security. I won the fight on those Medicaid portals. I'm fighting them to protect your clean energy. Each one of those things are on my website. Now, we're not getting all of them completely over just a few weeks. There's no question about that. But when I went to the floor with Rand Paul, a Republican, and I took Trump on his tariffs, Trump said, I better step back and relax them because Rand Paul and Ron Wyden are going to win. So, health insurance with Elizabeth Warren, clean energy, fighting these high tariffs. I can go on and on, but the point really is, you can see all of them. I'm here so that if I say something that you later look online and it's not accurate, you'll tell your friends, Ron Wyden's not telling the truth. I think the examples I'm giving, almost all of them, are going up against big power. That's why I was in public service from the beginning, because senior citizens were getting ripped off. And I haven't really changed. That's what the 1,120 town hall meetings are all about, ma'am. Nobody's ever done that in the history of Oregon government. No Republican, no Democrat, nobody had ever done it. And I said, I want to be like the founding fathers. I'm going to throw open the doors of government. So our doors are open to you.
I work as an educational instructional aide in the public school system. I work in special education and non-special education. I work with a lot of children with autism, also regular classrooms. But I am concerned about the infiltration or the potential infiltration of the MAGA Republicans on the school boards. And if that is the case in this county, I don't understand that. To me, our education system should be a reflection of the diversity of this country. And if there is an infiltration of hate and intolerance, there should be no place on the school boards for such people to be here.
All of you hear that? The gentleman was talking about school boards. Obviously, that is a state and local thing. But I'll tell you, one of the first rules of a government is that the fish stinks at the top, and what they're doing to clean out the Department of Energy and take away opportunities to help school districts that don't have money and students who need mental health, that's part of the problem. So yes, we've got to deal with school districts at the local level, but support having federal leadership as well for mental health for poor kids, because it's going to make a difference. And if the feds walk away from it, there'll be no momentum at the local level. Thank you for saying that. He's absolutely right. Volunteer for your school board. Help kids get it started with the momentum we need at every level of government. I think the Trump accumulation, personally, of all this crypto money is one of the most corrupt things I've ever seen, and I'm going to vote against it every single time out. And I voted against, along with Senator Merkley, against his crypto bill the Wednesday before we left Washington, and I'm going to keep voting against it. And by the way, some of crypto is pretty interesting. The Bitcoin idea is based on getting some of the middlemen, these corrupt middlemen, out of transactions. But I'm not going to support anything like that when Trump is engaging in these crypto processes for the sole enrichment of his family, and that's what we saw.
And it's something that both the Democrat Party and the Republican Party have both been complicit in, and that is the staggering national debt, which people have to understand is different from the annual deficit, which is just the amount we add on to our credit card chit. But right now, the national debt's on the order of $36 trillion, is it not?
Yep. Right,
and that, if my math is correct, that works out to over $100,000 for every man, living, woman, and child in this country. Isn't that math also true?
Yep. And the emphasis really needs to be on the child, because the child is going to have the bill when mom and dad and grandpa go.
So really, what's the answer? This is a giant light at the end of the tunnel, but we're going to get squashed someday if we don't do something about it. And you know what? It doesn't seem like anybody at the federal government is willing to say, no, we have to stop adding to our credit card balance. We have to stop with an annual deficit. Maybe for just 1 year, could we live within our means and find the revenues to match the expenditures?
The gentleman makes such an important point, and the reality is more than 60% of the budget comes in the healthcare area, the retirement area, and the Pentagon area. That's where the budget is. So I share your view. My wife and I are older parents. I look at my 12-year-old and I say my generation is living on their credit card, and you're going to pick up the bills. So that's one of the reasons why I put the focus on things like the tax breaks and the health care and the Pentagon, because those are the big ticket items. You win some of those, you make changes in Citizens United, and you're on your way to turning this Goliath around. It didn't happen in 15 minutes. It isn't going to get fixed in 15 minutes, but you're never going to get serious about it unless you go after those big ticket, items. And the woman there in row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 asked about, what Democrats are doing. I've been going after big ticket items for the last 6 months, and she will see on the floor of the Senate who's going to be fighting this horrifying tax bill that's coming from Donald Trump. This is one of the worst bills in American history, and as a senior Democrat in charge of taxes, you'll see me on the floor of the Senate leading the opposition against it, because it's contributing to the debt. It's going to bankrupt our future. We've got to stand up. We've got to block it, and I'm going to fight it in every way that I can.
We have a great national group called Indivisible. They're doing great work locally, state, and federally, so check that out, Indivisible. Senator Wyden, what is the contingency plan for our country? What are the Democrats going to do when our judicial system no longer has power? What are we going to do? We're seeing that there's not been a contempt of court against Donald Trump, who's already been ruled against. And I see our judicial system just paddling, I don't know what we're going to do. It's our last hope in this country to save our democracy. What are you going to do?
I think the judicial system issue and due process and the rule of law and having the magistrates carry out decisions is hugely important. I don't think it's the only issue. For example, for millions of people, they can't pay their bills. They can't pay their medical bill. They can't pay their food bill. They can't pay their housing bill. They can't pay their energy bill. It's why Trump is backing away from some of the tariff stuff. So you're absolutely right. This is hugely important. The courts have begun to rule against Trump. We've seen there's, I think, 11 decisions so far of the lower courts ruling against Trump. Amy Coney Barrett, who's a right-wing judge, is basically coming out against the person who nominated her, just in the last couple weeks. So the point really is, A, you're right to be as concerned as you are, and B, it's one of the reasons why I'm here and pulling out all the stops to push back, because I think Trump responds to public opinion. And if we can generate enough of it, and God bless all of you at Indivisible for what you're doing. You have your rallies right outside my office, and Ray Stratton is there almost every time, so we're with you.
I have recently started rereading 1984. And it is chilling. When I read it back in high school, I kind of shrugged it off thinking, and that was before 1984, I was thinking, this will never happen in this country because our country stands for freedom and democracy. I am chilled to the bone, the similarities of what is in that book and what is happening right now. I, like the woman over here, spend much of my day going through the news and trying to decipher what is true and trying to dig deeper. With the big baloney budget bill, it's 1,100 pages. I have not read it. I think there are probably people voting on it who have not read it. How can we get a good, honest synopsis of what is in that bill so we can judge for ourselves how we feel about each of these issues?
My staff is working it up. It passed, as you know, on Friday, but I've been up myself looking at some of what people are going to really be angry about. And let me give you an example. I'm sure you've heard all about the Medicaid cuts in the budget. How many of you thought Medicare was not going to be touched? Not so. It looks like the tax breaks are so rich for the powerful people, it broke the budget rules, the pay-go rules. So $500 billion or so is going to come out of Medicare, which is a big hit for Southern Oregon and seniors. I'm going to block that Medicare cut because I'm going to tell America what's really going on. They don't know today, but I'll tell you, they're sure as hell going to know when I'm done. And I'm called the Senate's privacy hawk because I came to the Senate and wrote some of the initial surveillance laws where you couldn't do surveillance without a warrant and the like, and Trump is trying to get around it. I've read 1984 many times, and I can recommend it highly. And I want to put this because I think we're done in the kind of context of what I've learned. I haven't heard a bad question in the House today. Wasn't anything unfair? And this is what the Founding Fathers wanted it to look like. And I've listened to a lot of you who understandably are pretty skeptical about government. Maybe you're skeptical about me. My friend in purple is going to start the effort to go after Citizens United. My indivisible buddies over there, folks over there think it's not going to matter, much. But I want to leave it this way. I wrote a book recently called It Takes Chutzpah, which is all about drive and fight and spirit and taking on the odds. I've been taking on the odds all my life. I was 29 years old. Oregon had never elected somebody like me, but I said I wanted to do public service for senior citizens and I wanted to fight the insurance companies. So that was chutzpah, folks. And I want to mention something that happened the other day that is relevant to listening to all of you, and particularly the many of you who spoke from the heart and you're very skeptical. They said they were thinking about leaving the United States because they were really desperate and they felt change wasn't going to take place and that some people were meaning well but it wasn't going to get done. And I said, I hope you won't do that. And they said, why? I said, we don't give up on America. My mother basically convinced the Jews in Berlin to take on Hitler. All the kids didn't want to do it. They thought he was a kook, but he wouldn't hurt them. My mother is the person I dedicated the book to. And I think all the time about how I don't want my 12-year-old daughter to lose her freedom. And we can't give up. Roosevelt did not give up. Martin Luther King did not give up. Abraham Lincoln did not give up. So I know this is tough. I get it. I understand that the change hadn't been fast enough. It hadn't been strong enough. It hadn't been good enough. But I want you to know, God bless all of you for coming out on a late spring afternoon to educate me. I'm sure you go home disagreeing with me about one subject or two subjects, or maybe you say Ron doesn't know much about anything at all, which is you're right. But I hope you'll say, this is the way. We've got to do it. We've got to win. We can win these fights I'm talking about today. It won't be easy. We can do it if we do it together. God bless. Thanks, everybody.
I'm worried about the McDermott caldera and the lithium deposits in there. I don't want Musk and his asshole.
We're going to say nothing gets done violate any environmental laws up there. I'm watching very closely. I mean, on the border with Southern Nevada.
All right, well, first of all, though, just why don't you tell me what a town hall is and what you've been hearing from the folks here in Medford?
I think people are particularly concerned about their liberty, their freedom, the rule of law, due process, and that's why what I was trying to do is give as many examples, taking on these rip-off tax breaks, the health care cuts, my bill to take Oregon vote by mail national, which would be hugely beneficial in terms of enhancing people's rights right now.
Yeah, and then I wanted to ask you about our energy system. You know, it didn't really come up in this town hall, but renewable energy has been on a lot of people's minds.
Well, as you know, I wrote the clean energy tax credits, and I feel very strongly about it because after 50 years of inaction, no cap and trade, no carbon pricing, you know, I spent probably 2 full years just developing the technology neutrality, you know, piece, and now we have the Trump people looking like they're going to walk it back and raise prices and reduce choice and competition. Now, I can tell you in the last few days I've been making a lot of calls, talking to a lot of businesses, a lot of Republicans. The Republicans, if they were to do something like what passed the House, they're going to alienate a lot of their supporters who, for example, are very interested in nuclear. They're very, very interested in a lot of energy sources as well, and they're going to get a lot of flack for it.
Yeah, solar and wind have definitely been kind of taking a step back under the Trump policy.
A whole host of other issues as well.
They seem very bullish on nuclear. How do you feel about nuclear energy?
Well, I think we put it in the bill for a reason, and that is ought to be one of the choices. The point of technological neutrality is this, and I'm not sure I touched on it with you before. I made the judgment that nobody really knows what the big carbon reducers are going to be 30 years from now. So what I wanted to do was to establish a new lane that creates incentives for science, for a lot of science, a lot of research, looking at opportunities to really show the breakthroughs in terms of reducing carbon. And my bill has panned out. We've had hundreds of billions of dollars worth of investment, and major investment houses are predicting hundreds of billions of dollars more. We're just going to have to make some changes in what the House has done.
And then last question, Oregon has fallen a little bit short of its goals with adopting renewable energy. We're like 47th in growth around renewables right now, and it seems that a lot of that comes down to a failure to expand our transmission grid. How do you think we should navigate that problem?
Well, I said from the very beginning that my bill wasn't perfect, and particularly expanding the grid was one of our next priorities. Now we've got to make sure we don't lose the foundation of technology neutrality. The more you reduce carbon, the bigger your federal tax savings and the like, and then I'll be able to go on to the grid.
All right, I know you're busy. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you guys. The other part of the energy debate that you're going to hear about this week is Republicans are home. Their constituents really like hydro, they like nuclear, but they also really like geothermal. And geothermal may be a sleeper, and they're going to find a lot of their constituents are not happy with the cuts in geothermal.
Hey, thanks for adding that on. Appreciate that, Senator.
This is a new dimension in sound. This is